Hello, this is Curtis. I'd like to spend a few minutes with you today to talk about some recommendations that I have for anyone who is a Scrum Master or product owner and you're looking for a new position. This may seem very, very basic. A lot of people say, I don't even need to do this. I know how to write my resume. But trust me, as someone who has been a coach for 8 years, 10 years, I've lost track. Okay. Somebody who has been the manager of Agile delivery and had to hire teams of Scrum Masters. I have some insights for you that I think might be good because I've seen a lot of candidates who apply to jobs and get weeded out, filtered out right away. So that's what the purpose of this is today. All right, we're going to start off with a brief story. I'll tell a little bit of anecdotes perhaps about things that I've seen and why I think this is important. We'll talk about the filter process, why you may not even be getting calls whenever you drop off your resume or you're not getting calls from recruiters. We'll discuss the best resume format. I'm going to make one recommendation, just one, right? You could do it several different ways, but the one that seems to work the best, we'll talk about. There are some helpful resources out there we'll talk about as well. Concepts for writing and maintaining your resume, keeping it updated seems obvious. Apparently it's not. And then some gap analysis, things to do to get your resume up to date. All right, this video in context is going to be one of 5 or 6 or 7, which is for helping people to improve their careers, get better jobs, get better pay. I have noticed that while there is similar types of content out there in the market, some of these things they treat as if it's obvious and they never even discuss it. And then I see so many people messing up on their interviews and their resumes. And I thought, well, maybe it's not as obvious as it seems. So if you're frustrated and you're not getting calls and you're not getting interviews or your interviews are not going well, you really might want to think about watching through this series of videos. First video, this one, writing and maintaining your resume. The second one is preparing for interviews. There's a lot that goes into preparing for interviews. People just walk into one interview, but there's stuff that you should be doing in advance to prepare yourself emotionally, psychologically, and professionally so that an interview is just a conversation. The next one is preparing for the specific interview. When you get to the job you actually want, how to get that job and how to negotiate for good salaries and how to get things like, for example, signing bonus and possibly relocation. Okay. Then my partner, Sean, has some videos he's going to create, which is the Scrum Master new hire, a week in the life of the Scrum Master, the first 90 days, how to set yourself up for success, and then other techniques for how to build a successful team. Now, story time. All right. So I have had the opportunity to coach probably 100 Scrum Masters in my time. And I've seen many, many, many different patterns. The most stunning, shocking revelation was when I was a manager of Scrum Master teams and I had to hire. I had candidates who came in with resumes that were formats that were kind of goofy looking, right? It looked like they grabbed the wrong format entirely. It looked like they were art candidates who came in with beautiful, glitzy resumes, but there was no substance to it. I've seen candidates come in with terrible spelling and grammatical errors. There's no excuse for that. Even if for you, English is a second language, there's Grammarly and other applications as well as Word has spell check and grammar check in it. So even if English isn't your first language, you still should be able to get a clean resume. That is the first point of contact between a hiring manager and someone. If I see that a resume is full of grammar and spelling mistakes, my first thought is, whoa, we got a problem here. This could be an ongoing issue because if you don't pay attention when you do your first resume, you're probably going to make similar mistakes later on. So I have worked with several colleagues who were struggling to get jobs, and I helped them to clean up their resume, add key language, and then they started getting interviews. Then we discovered that they were not succeeding in the interviews. So then we performed mock interviews and I would interview them myself and listen to what they were doing and discovered that there were several problems with the way that they approached the interview. and I mentored them on how to make improvements, and then they got great jobs. And I've seen Scrum Masters who were stuck in junior Scrum Master positions who then finally went on to senior Scrum Master positions. This is what I want to do for you, to help you to understand what's holding you back. Why can you not earn more than $100,000 a year as a Scrum Master? A good Scrum Master rate can be anywhere from 90 to 110. A great one will be 110 to 140, somewhere around there. And if you're a contractor, it could go as much as, 180, $160,000 a year. Okay. You could, in theory, get 180, but that's very rare. And you better be very senior. You're basically a coach scrumming some teams. All right. So I hope that'll help out. Now, think of the recruiting process as a filter. All right. When an organization reaches out to a hiring consultancy, a recruiting company, headhunters, they put out the ad and they start reaching out to people. One of the first things they do is they run a search inside of the job boards, such as Monster or Dice or LinkedIn, and they're looking for the keywords based off of whatever the job description was that we provided. So I would write the job description and I would state exactly what we needed. Then they would search on certain key phrases. The only thing that came back was Scrum Masters who had those key phrases, right? So the first filter is it removes people who don't have specific skills we're looking for. Therefore, one of the conversations we'll have here is making sure that you keep key phrases, specific words in your resumes. Many people fail to fill their resume with the skills and the techniques that they've used, which are often used as the search term. Okay. Now, out of the dozens that are submitted, we will pick 6 to 10 or 12, maybe a dozen, to interview. And then we have a panel and we start to interview them. But only 1 or 2 will get hired. So you start with hundreds and you're down to 1. Now, you don't want to be that group that got weeded out early on. So that's what we're going to do, is try and talk a little bit about how do you get past those first filters. We're going to start off, first of all, by talking about the formats of the resume. Yes, you can go into Word. You can open up, as you see, right here. All right. These are resume formats provided within Word. Most of us are going to weed through first anything that doesn't look like a professional technical resume, because a lot of times people will go for the fancy schmancy pretty format because they don't have a lot of substance. We're going to be looking for substance. All right. So the correct resume format you want is called reverse chronological. And Word does have a chronological format, and it looks a little bit like this. Okay. You'll notice that it has a section at the top for your name and address and a little brief description. Then you get your experience and your education. I believe it's missing some things, and I don't like the look and feel of this. That's why I have a little cringe avatar there. It looks a little too artsy, a little too cutesy. Okay, so the content is going to have these sections. A header includes your name, address, phone, and email. The career objective, qualifications, accomplishments, and then you start with your experience. That's in reverse chronological order, the most recent job toward the oldest. It needs to include your employer name and the client. All right, I'll explain that in a second. And then your title, what you were doing. What I mean by that is if you were placed by a recruiter, let's say it's Apex or whoever it is, okay, and you're working at a client, which is, let's say, Walmart or Target, you need to have both in there. I recommend. So you need to say, client, Walmart via Apex or whoever that is. That's probably not real important for the hiring process, but they will ask you, well, who is your employer? Well, I actually worked for Apex, but I was at the client site. Okay. Later on, if they do background and security checks, you will actually have to know and remember who it was that you were working for. Sounds obvious, but I had a problem one time where I got about 10 years into my career and I hadn't maintained both of these. So when they did the security check, because Walmart was a client and they didn't actually employ me, there was no record of them having me as an employee. So I had to go back through my records and find who was the actual hiring company, the recruiting company, and then give them those exact dates, and then they could validate it. So if you keep that kind of detail in your resume, it could help you to streamline your hiring process later on. Okay. Let's see here. Then you have your education and your technical skills. I believe those should go at the end, not at the beginning. If I see education and technical skills up at the beginning, I often think that this person right off the bat probably doesn't have a lot of experience. So they're highlighting, oh, I graduated from college more than, oh, I have some experience. All right. Now, there's some very helpful resources out there. There's a ZETI article, 3 best resume formats to use in 2023. I'm going to just jump to reverse chronological, but you can go and read this. It's a very long article, lots of great details. LinkedIn has career advice you really should go watch. Excellent materials in LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn career advice and read those articles, watch the videos, they give fantastic advice to people who are looking for jobs. Monster.com has some resume guides. They're pretty good. And they also have a pretty in-depth resume guide by industry to kind of give you some suggestions what it should look like. And they do have specifically Scrum Master and Product Owner materials. Now, when you are going to go out and look for a job, it is absolutely critical that you perform a gap analysis on your current resume compared to the job you want. So you're going to take your resume, open it up, then go out to the job boards and look for a job and start looking to see, do I have all the language that I need in my resume so that I would show up in the first search, the job search? That's absolutely critical. A lot of people fail to do this. They just type up their resume and they don't think about the search terms that should be in them. So go out and find jobs, do a comparison, compare line by line, identify any missing skills. Don't just copy and paste, put it into your own words, except for the key phrase. So if it says, let's suppose they're looking for BDD, all right? That's behavior-driven development. You want BDD or behavior-driven development in the resume because that could come up in the search terms, all right? That's just one example. It could be CI/CD, could be DevOps, whatever it is that job is looking for. If you have that experience, you should add it. If you don't, you shouldn't. Right? Don't try and oversell. We will figure out if you're bluffing. And then you will have lost our confidence and you won't get hired. So if you know about it, it should be in your resume. If you can explain it, it should be in your resume. If it's in your resume, you have to be able to explain it. I can't tell you how many times I've had candidates who had stuff in there about story slicing, but when I asked them how they slice stories, they either gave me a wrong answer or they couldn't answer it, which told me that they had grabbed the search term, but they'd never actually performed that task. They didn't really have experience or knowledge. And that got them removed from the candidate pool. Now, if you see things in those resumes that you realize, wow, I don't have that skill, but I should get it, you should be keeping a list of skills I need to acquire and then start studying it, researching it, and trying to apply it. There's enough resources out there on the internet that you can learn how to do BDD and TDD and other things, vertical slicing. You can get some good guidance on how to do these types of things. But if you have senior Scrum Masters, senior product owners, or a coach, you can probably go and ask for some guidance from them as well. Always be humble enough to say, I don't know how to do that, but I'd like to learn. Now, here's a good example of what I'm talking about. Go out to the job board, find a job, go take a look at it. Now, and I've got my resume right over here, right? So I look at the terms that are in here. Yep. Agile values, principles, et cetera, facilitate Scrum events. Yes, I've got that. Make sure that you have that in your resume. Okay. Facilitates meetings and ensure Scrum events are held. Got it. The completion of assignments efficiently and without dictating work. Okay, that's important. Notice that they're looking for your leadership style. So you want to make sure that you take note. Okay, they're not looking for a command and control person. Oh, look, they're looking for someone who could coach the product owner. If you've ever worked with a junior product owner and you've had to coach them on writing better stories, This is what they're looking for. So what I would do is go over, look, coached product owners to better understand their role. So I've already got this term in here. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but you understand, go line by line, read what they're looking for. Do you have it? If you do not have it, but you have done it in the past and you know how to perform the duty, add it to your resume. Okay, so here's an example of a resume that I created, and I'm going to just quickly point out what I'm talking about by the sections that you should add. Okay, first of all, you know that you have your header and your footer. You should also have an employment objective. Now, you notice what I've stated here is that I'm a highly experienced Scrum Master seeking an agile enterprise where I can apply broad experience and real-world coaching expertise in both Scrum and Kanban to stabilize and grow your teams. This is a marketing blurb. This is what I'm going to bring and provide to you. Very short, very pithy, but you're marketing to the hiring manager. This is what I bring. Now, you better be able to talk to that and sell yourself as an expert in this. Remember, you're selling a product, and that product is you. So the employment objective is a way of saying, I want to come work for you. This is what I'm going to bring. Now, the next one is qualifications. This is just a list of the specific skills that you have that you're bringing with you. And it's very good if these kind of align to the things that they're looking for, right? Coaching product owners, perhaps. Data management skills. If I have worked in data teams and that's what they're looking for is data teams, I would add that to this qualifications list. All right. The reason why we put that up front is because you notice that as a hiring manager, I don't even have to get into your job experience. I can look at your qualifications and say, oh, they've got all the key words here. This one looks like they've got everything we need. Let me go see the experience to see where they got it from. So the experience is secondary to the list of qualifications. Accomplishments now is the third section, and this is where I talk about things I specifically accomplished, real wins that make me valuable. And you want to have a little section on that. If you can have like any kind of metric, like I doubled team velocity or increased my team velocity by 30%, and you have some kind of graphs or something later on that shows actual team metrics to back that up, that's an extra win. Then you get to your reverse chronological order of your experience, and you do need to have some detail in here. What did you do in each one of those jobs? Don't be afraid to have 5, 6, 7, 8 bullets. There should be a list there of what were your main duties in each one. And these should map to your qualifications. So that way I can say, oh, you've done TDD. Where did you use TDD? Oh, at this job down here, I taught test-driven development to the teams and we improved our quality, reduced defects. Please make sure that you check your spelling, your grammar, your punctuation, all right? We will be looking for those things. 1 or 2 little mistakes probably won't be a problem, but if it's throughout the whole resume, you get you kicked out. Finally, you get to education, your languages, and technical skills. I put at the very back. This is stuff, for example, it's not really going to be usually part of the qualifications. It could be, but these are things like, for example, if you've worked with Jira, Rally, any of the ALM tools, you'd list them there because that might show up then in your in the job search, in the keywords. So I put all of that type of stuff in here. Like, let's see here, root cause analysis. That's another skill. It didn't go up in my qualifications, but it's something I have found sometimes shows up. All right, now, the last thing you need to be thinking about is, now that you've got this thing updated, maintain it. I can't tell you how many times I've run into people who haven't touched their resume in 6 months or a year or 2 years. They've acquired all sorts of new skills. They did all sorts of great things with their teams, but they didn't add it to their resume. So then when they actually find themselves laid off or in between jobs, they start to panic because their resume hasn't been dusted off. And I've actually gotten calls and say, what should I be adding? How should I add? I don't remember what we did. Don't you remember? I taught you this and I taught you the other thing. Oh, yeah, that's right. And we add it to their resume. But then I kind of chastise them a little bit and say, you should be maintaining your resume on a weekly and monthly basis. I do that. Anytime I learn something new, I add it to my resume that day so that I don't have to remember it. I got, look at all these gray beard, right? I got a little bit of, senioritis going on. I can't remember what I did 3 months ago. I can't remember what I did last week. So I immediately have a discipline of update my resume so I don't have to remember. I know it's in there. And it's funny. I remember the skill. I just don't remember learning the skill. right? So take advantage of the fact that you can just keep your resume updated, keep it in a online drive someplace so it's accessible at a moment's notice. All right. The right job comes along, you can just attach it from your OneDrive or your Google Drive, whatever you're using. Don't forget to add soft skills to your resume. A lot of people focus on the technical stuff like story slicing, story pointing, increased velocity, but they forget about building a team, building collaboration, conflict resolution. These are soft skills. Negotiation, persuasion. You want to have that in there. Ask a friend or colleague to review it so that they will notice things that you don't notice. Demonstrate a dedication to ongoing learning, continuous education. Put that in there. So you've got your certifications. Believe me, certifications are actually worth more than an advanced degree. I'd rather someone get a couple of $1,000 certifications than to see someone show up with a master's degree, which will not help you as a Scrum Master or product owner or even as an Agile coach. Now, in upcoming videos, we're going to talk about how to improve your interviewing skills, how to reduce anxiety, improve your interview performance, and get promotions. We'll talk about how to perform practice or mock interviews and how to nail the interview for the job of your dreams. How to take control of the interview using powerful questions to guide the interviewer to your strengths. Okay? That's a kind of an odd concept. Most people go into an interview somewhat passively. I go in there and gently begin to take control of the interview towards certain places, things that I want them to notice. And I'll teach you how to do that so that you actually shine in the interview. And then how to negotiate for better salary, signing bonus, relocation, and other benefits. I hope that was helpful. I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Have a great day. Thank you.